That's cool. Well, folks, it's that time again, the end of Night Out Season 3, and we've seen a little bit of everything. But just before we throw the curtain down on Night Owl, we have one final treat in store, the 90-minute finale here at Bathurst. Hello, everybody at RCI TV Land. I'm Jesse Lee. I'm here with Ryan Mawson and Nick Setnick on the cameras, and we join you in hot pursuit of qualifying on the mountain, and there may be only 19 cars in the race, but Ryan Mawson, qualifying is at a premium here today.
Yeah, absolutely. With coming into the final finale of Bathurst, nothing is pretty much settled in the standings. We were working it out prior. We've got so many people that can leapfrog it. There's basically only one person who has absolutely locked it in, and that's that man here, Harry Spears, who's pretty much won the Pro Championship. There's nothing anyone can do to touch him. But anything sort of P2, P3, the Silver Championship, it's all open for grabs. Lovely day here at Bathurst. Nice and almost chilly for Australia, being 24C. We see the first people start setting their laps. Harry Spears charges up the mountain, followed in hot pursuit by Sebastian Brunier in the 769 McLaren.
Yes, a special 90-minute race here today, but the same 10-minute qualifying session. This is Pro and High Silver for Night Owl, and it has been an eventful Season 3. And like you said earlier, Harry Spears, who didn't get to finish last week's race due to mechanical issues, had to retire. He's still clear. He clinched simply by starting the race last week. So he is going to be crowned champion in the Pro class, but it isn't that simple in the AM class, as there are several different drivers who could lay claim to the championship. We'll get into them after the qualifying session is over, but a very short time period and a very, very long track. Very important to nail your lap immediately.
And a track that is very, very easy to have a mistake. I mean, over the mountain, it's walls either side of you. You got to nail your line precisely. And a lot of times, what ACC likes to do, if you do happen to tap the wall, it just invalidates that lap, just to give you, a little bit more of an annoyance. As we see this man as well, Cody Pride for the PPR Esports, number 15 McLaren. They had quite a few good rounds recently. He's back here to tackle the mountains. We can see what their McLaren can do versus maybe the silver car of the 769.
Yes, indeed. The mountain needs no introduction, and if you decide to take liberties with her, well, she will either invalidate your lap after you hit the wall or just chew you up and spit you out. And if you have an issue over Skyline and down through the S's, well, that is going to create a roadblock scenario. And if you're the kind of person that has made it to this point and you have everything to lose, like so many of our silver drivers do here today, well, that could spell absolute disaster. One of the only ways to ensure that you won't have any dramas early in a race today, well, that's to win the pole and get out in front of everybody, or, well, start from pit lane, and nobody is going to want to do that, even with a 90-minute race today. Harry Spears, quickest so far, 2-minute .738, 7/10 quicker than Daniel Jose Jorge in the 777 Ferrari. Paulo Lima, who is currently leading the Silver Class Championship by some 30 points, was third, back down to fourth as Cody Pride sets a time 7/10 off of the ultimate pace. Harry Spears, 4 podiums, 3 wins, and the 1 DNF last week. That man has been unstoppable this season.
Yeah, it's really been showing us exactly what you can do when you, as it says, Harry Spears, very, very talented driver in that Mercedes. He's really showing us exactly what you can do with that car when you know it so well and you know exactly what you need to do. This man as well had quite a good season. Brian Knappen, often being quite on the tail, had a couple of good races, some great battles before. Currently 5th, but he is actually improving in the trending up, so we'll see what happens after he's come back down the mountain. The other thing that will be interesting to see here is the difference in cars, the difference in setups over a 90-minute race, because there's 2 real setup ways you can go for Bathurst. You can go for a car that's really good over the mountain, but generally you have to run more downforce for that. You're a little bit slower down the straight. Or you have the people who just take basically all the wing off of it and go for ultimate speed down the straight. And you'll see that those cars will struggle in Sector 2 over the mountain, but then there will be an absolute rocket ship coming down here into the chase and then up towards T2 out of Hell Corner.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, either way, you want good turning ability, and sometimes that is going to require you to hang the back out a little bit. Nothing more dangerous, though, around the mountain than driving a Porsche like Tyler Jason LaValle's doing for Team PSR. I would not want to be the person that has to wield that thing around here for any amount of time. I know a lot of people often refer to the Porsche around the mountain as the ultimate lethal combination. I probably still wouldn't want a Lamborghini either. But generally speaking, people seem to fear the Porsche around here above all else.
Yeah, it is historically it's a very pointy car, but the problem with having such a pointy direct front end is if you get a little bit wrong over the mountain, it will be very direct into the wall, whether you like it or not.
Most of the time here when I am driving, I'm just sort of hanging on, and much to a lot of my team's chagrin, perhaps, I probably shouldn't admit that I have my eyes closed a lot of the time.
Jesse is such a good driver, he doesn't need his eyes open. That's
No,
how
I'm
good he
just
is.
no, I'm just a coward, and I don't want to see the wall that's going to hit me. But other than that, Harry Spears has, I think, gone a bit quicker there. 2-minute .648. Cody Pride's definitely gone quicker. Now just about 3/10 off of the ultimate pace. Daniel Jose Jorge and Lutherland are a bit further back, 8/10 off, but nearly nothing in it for third place. As Sizek here attempts to gain some more spots. That Ferrari looks a bit rapid so far.
Yeah, it's looking like that, especially on the Delta. Definitely up coming down the mountain if you can get the dipper right. This section is a lot more technical than you think. It is incredibly narrow, and it's very easy to unsettle the cars. A lot of odd cambers. Very easy to lock the wheels, the front left coming into Forest Elbow with the odd camber. But if you can get all that and get a really good run out, as Sizek has, that's another 2 temps just coming out of Forest Elbow. So that should definitely improve his time and put him back up into the upper pack battle.
Well, hopefully he can hang on to it through the chase and not hit a curb. Remember, this curb on the inside here, way bigger than you think it is, expertly taken. You want to get right along that curb now, all the way the run down. Got to get the braking right for the final 90 left here onto the straightaway. Even though it's not the longest straight in the world, you can lose a ton of time by going a bit wide, a little bit on the grass there, but no dramas for Sizek, who improves to a 201.728, and he will get another run at it as the sun is going down, and well, the time is about to expire as Harry Spears for Sidemax Motorworks, who we documented, we talked about the 4 wins, or excuse me, the 4 podiums and the 3 wins out of 5 rounds. It has just been that kind of season for Harry Spears. And honestly, if you win a race, if you take a race win away from Harry Spears, like a couple of drivers have this season, that's I feel like that's the best you can do, and good on you for doing it.
Yeah, that's sometimes the best trophy in it is if you just have that day where you might be that, yeah, just that little bit quicker than someone else. Okay, maybe over a season they are just that smidge quicker, but it's always nice to say, hey, you know, once I was as fast as you.
Anybody I beat, I don't let them ever forget it. They say, well, Jesse, I beat you 100 times. I'm like, yeah, but remember that one time you didn't? And those are my favorite ones. But Spears did go quicker, by the way, a 2-minute .579. Anna now the one giving chase in a second, but we're on board with Daniel Jose Jorge, who's trying to come to the line and pick up a little bit down in 4th place. Cody Pride could get to 3rd, about 3.5 tenths off. But what does Jose Jorge have at the line? It is an improvement, but does not bump him up a spot, a 1.134. Actually, it does. For as it looks like Anna has disappeared for some reason. Now that's very interesting, now isn't it? Anna, who had qualified second, has left the building already. Now, that tells me that is a connection sort of issue there, because there'd be no real reason after having a qualifying like that you would leave, I would expect.
Yeah, I would assume so. It's like I said, they've just completely disappeared off the timing screen and off my timing tower as well. So yeah, it would appear connection issues for that car for Anna would be it's a shame, as it says, qualified in P2. It was looking like the two Mercedes were going to have a good battle, but it just means now that Harry Spears is going to have to keep his eyes on his mirror for Cody Pride
Ooh.
instead.
Flamger nearly knocked down the outside wall coming to the line. Is going to take 10th, and that is going to do it for the very short qualifying session here for the 90-minute finale. Well, there you have it. Harry Spears on pole, a 2-minute .579. Good enough for pole position today. Cody Pride's going to end up lining up second, 3.5 tenths back. Daniel Jose Jorge's will be bumped up to the third starting spot. And of course, Lutherland and Sizek behind them. Lutherland is going to take the silver pole in front of Lima right now. And of course, Eckhart, Knappen, Flamger, and Kumpu now the top 10. And the outside the top 10 starters, Moriarty, Brunier, Sons, Heilman, Lavalle, Renoir, Ziege, and Anderson. Now, here's an interesting thing as we're going to go over some points here as we get ready to start this race. And, well, we'll talk about the weather in a second, or the lack thereof it. But here are your championship points, and I'm just going to read these out aloud. Harry Spears has clinched the GT3 Pro Championship. He cannot be caught by Brian Knappen behind, but Knappen cannot lose his grip on second place today. He has to set his sights firmly on doing the best he can, because Sizek in third place is only about 25-ish points out of second. The maximum point stay here would be about 69, 70 points. So it is very possible to get beaten to second. McKean, who is only a little bit behind them in fourth, who has 207 points. And Magazi has 196. Anna in sixth place has 139, who was going to take part here today, but doesn't look like it now. That's going to promote Sean Moriarty, who's in seventh place, has 135. Cody Pride behind them, 122. David Gill, I don't think, is here. Neither is Elmo Garcia. Daniel, the next nearest person that stands to come up is Daniel Jose Jorge's, who has 62 points. He could leapfrog all the way in the top 10 here today. Well, this, folks, is the fight, though. The silver battle here today. Paulo Lima has a 35-point lead on Ryan Renoir. Renoir can take this by simply outperforming Lima, or if Lima has an incident today and beats him by about 6 or so positions, Renoir could overtake Lima for the championship. Kumpu, by the way, is a long shot in third place with 212 points to Lima's 268, but could also potentially do it, being 50 some points out. Seb Brunier fell to fourth place, has 194. He will be looking to beat Kumpu today to retake third in the championship. Lutherland has 184, only 10 behind Brunier. And Tyler Jason Lavalle in sixth place has 175. Flamger has 162. Yimaz has 160. Benjamin Heilman has 157. And Sones, who is all the way back in 12th, has 137. And Sones is going to move up a few positions. And I think Heilman will move up to 8th. But those are some rough numbers. I'll try to keep you up to date if anything changes today. and oh boy, it's dark out there.
Yeah, it does look like that. Nice and chilly as well. Well, I say chilly. Chilly for Australia, 19°. We're starting at 3 a.m. We're going to make the hills alive with the sound of GT3 cars, I think. It'll be a good wake-up call for anyone in the town of Bathurst.
I've actually got a text from Benjamin Heilman who's in the race. You could tell who he is because he's the weirdo driving a pink and powder blue Porsche, and that's not the weird part. The color scheme's not the weird part. The weird part is he's in a Porsche here at the mountain. Matter of fact, there's three of them. There were four, but now there's going to be three of them. I don't think because he wouldn't have known either what the races were. Remember, that was the catch of this championship, was not knowing what the tracks were when you picked your car. Well, for him today, it is going to be about survival. Well, he texted me and said that he's ready to hit a wall at the top of the mountain. And from where he was sitting, there were a lot of people doing that at the top of the mountain in qualifying. And I can back that up. There were several waved yellows over Skyline.
I mean, if you've gone to Bathurst and you don't leave with any sort of damage on the right-hand side of the car, have you really been to Bathurst?
Yeah, you said that, and again, we talked about this before the race, and I can only count on one finger the amount of times I've come here and left unscathed, and I feel like it is a rite of passage. You got to at least touch the wall at some point, because who's going to believe you if you don't? 3:05 in the morning, 90-minute finale. Pit window is 70 minutes, and the extra monkey wrench is, yes, you have to add a liter of fuel, but you also have to change your tires.
Yes, and this means now that unlike the strategies of old on the night owl, we always used to say, it was just 1 liter and you didn't have to do anything. That meant that strategies were very varied, but a lot of times it seemed to be that going full fuel, going long, and not taking tires was one of the faster strategies. Now that we say that we have to take tires, this could mean that some of these people are starting this race on sort of more of a sprint fuel tank, if you will, a lower fuel to go maybe 30 minutes, 30, 40 minutes, and then pit in the middle of 4 tires. You would sort of expect that. The mountain is it's not easy on your tires, but it's also not super vicious. It generally depends how you break them in, which is going to be very difficult for these drivers and these teams. In 19 degrees, it is quite chilly, so you end up going over the mountain, really putting quite a lot of strain on the tires, which will make them want to grain to try get some, vague idea of heat inside them. And then you go down the 2 massive straights and cool them all off again, ready to do it again. So yeah, I think a fresh set of tires might be quite the, quite happy for some of these teams.
Well, Harry Spears is going to lead them to green. He shares the front row with Cody Pride. Daniel Jose Jorges and Ben Litherland are your second row. Sizek and Lima will be behind them. And the reason I highlight those 6 drivers is they occupy the first 3 rows, and they will be the ones that dictate how this race starts up front. And for Harry Spears, your biggest competition, Anna, has left the building after qualifying. And that has to make you feel a little bit better, but I can tell you something that doesn't make you feel very good. Cody Pride now is the one lining up beside you, and we all know how tenacious Cody Pride is. I feel like Cody Pride sometimes wills certain things into happening, and they just happen. And I don't know how he Jedi mind tricks people, but if I'm Harry Spears, that's sort of what I'm focusing on. I'm focusing on hitting my line, making sure I get as defensive as possible, and also open up a little bit of a gap on lap 1.
Yeah, some drivers really perform under pressure very well, and we've sort of seen that with Cody. The race at Brands Hatch, very good. We've seen him earlier today in Monza qualifying. It was absolute soaking down in Monza. He still did an amazing lap in his Porsche. It's just one of those drivers that do perform very well under pressure. The other added bonus is if Harry Spears gets a better drive, and out of turn 1, you then have that almightily massive Mercedes to tuck your McLaren right up behind and try get a bit of slipstream down. So yeah, we very, very interesting to see how each of them start. Also, obviously, as we've said before, the AMG does have to run more fuel. It burns more fuel, especially here at the mountain where you're wide open throttle for a good portion of the race. I think the McLaren will burn a lot less with that turbo V8.
Well, folks, at some tracks, it doesn't really matter what car you're in. If you're good, you're good. Well, the problem with the mountain is the mountain cares what car you're in. If you have a particularly nimble and aero-dependent car, you're going to love the mountain section. But if you have a screaming, thrusting engine, well, you are going to love the straights. And you're going to see the tale of two different races as the green flag flies for the Season 3 Night Out finale around the mountain. Harry Spears gets an excellent shot and clears them into hell corner. Drive-through penalty for Sizek, who must have been out of position on the start.
Yes, that's not a live steward thing. That is an ACC giving you that. Cody Pride already looking to the inside. It's just a look though, just trying to throw him off. And we have managed to get all the way up to turn 2 as they follow through. Just about to see all the headlights through the dark sweeping through.
They have done a good job so far, as no yellow flags, and everybody making their way up to the mountain completely pitch dark at 3:10 in the morning. And it's looking good for Harry Spears as he is chasing a 4th win in the series. 5 podiums at that. Near perfect except last week. And that would be just fine. But don't get ahead of yourself. Cody Pride is right there. And so is Daniel Jose Jorge, who is actually going to end up thinking about making a move. You got to watch out in the S's before you get to Forest Elbow and thinks better of it. But that's exactly what I was talking about, Ryan. You can see that McLaren has an advantage on the mountain.
Yeah, exactly. But you gotta break these tires easier. Obviously, a lot of these drivers are trying to go for everything. We can see the Ferrari in the straight line. We have said historically the Ferrari is a very good speed car. They're going to swap to the inside, going through the kink. But this does put Cody Pride on the inside for the chase, if he can hold on to it. Jorge's really, really, really wants that around the outside. Holds on to it just about, but swaps back to the inside. This is another good passing point. Hard on the brakes. Down the inside, just about leaving enough room. But nope, Cody Pride has the better drive off the corner. As we see Sizek taking his drive through from the start. That was obviously ACC had given that for being out of position.
Look at this!
Back, yeah, that back to the 777.
Oh, this could be dangerous!
Still going for it. He has made the move, made the pass.
Oh, that's brilliant. Daniel Jose Jorge, what is it possible that he has the pace to go up and get Harry Spears? Because all that did, look how far Harry Spears is up in front now. He's absolutely out of here. I actually went over to one of where the steward's box was, and I was curious because I know for our big races, we clear drive-throughs in that case, but we do if it is live stewarded. This is not a live stewarded series, so all drive-throughs that you accrue on the start actually count, and you have to serve them. I was looking for some clarification in the rules, was able to find it. Non-stewarded races, you do not get your drive-through cleared.
Yeah, exactly. As you when you briefly ran over there, you really could see the speed of that Ferrari though, and that's going to be, as we said at the start, a tale of two races. Welcome to a speed car versus a car that is very good over the mountain. It's definitely going to be interesting as these 90 minutes play out. As we see Sebastian Brunier being chased down by Lavalle. Once again, bit of a tale of two. Porsche historically not the fastest thing in a straight line. But both of these cars really are quite good. Oh, Jose Jorge's in the pits.
Oh, what's happened here? What has happened here? Has that car... Oh, no, that car's went off in Forest Elbow.
Yeah, that's
Our,
Forest Elbow.
our second place driver has had a crash in Forest Elbow, and was there contact? Yes, there was contact with the 732 in the wall, and calamity in the Forest Elbow in the 777, who was running second as towed. This couldn't get any better for Harry Spears.
Ah, yeah, I mean, we said it was going to happen, didn't we? And it's happened with like literally about 5 minutes into the race. Oh dear.
Harry Spears now is in a very dangerous position, as
Oh no.
it looks like Benjamin Heilman, who called his shot that there was going to be an accident, I don't think he was involved in Forest Elbow. I think this is an unrelated one.
No, and you can't even say that we commentator cursed him. He cursed himself. But it is.
Yeah, he broadcaster cursed himself. He called it. He said, "I'm going to crash in this Porsche," and he did.
But maybe if it's a strategy, if you get your mandatory crash out of the way, it's like your mandatory pit stop. You know, if you get your mandatory crash done, then it's fine for the next 90 minutes. This is endurance crashing, you see.
You know, I used to use that same strategy when I had to tell my mother I had bad grades. I would bring my report card to her, and I would tell her that I had bad grades, and in turn, I would get less punishment because I manned up and did that.
Oh, what are the Porsches? 935 also taking a tap to the wall.
Yeah,
Continues
the Porsches,
on.
we talked about it, Ryan. The Porsches, they're not happy around the mountain. We saw that with our latest 12-hour endurance race that Jimmy and Jardier helped us throw. And you're seeing it right here in Night Owl as well. I hear we have the incident that happened to Ben Heilman. Be very interested to see that. And here it is. Was this many cars involved? That's the 14th place Audi. And was that contact? Oh, he definitely touched the wall a little bit, but that wasn't it.
That's a touch of the wall.
That was a very minor touch that caused all that damage. Then maybe.
Either that, or there was just something that we didn't quite catch on our replay cameras. But yeah, maybe that was the beginning of it.
Well. The most dangerous combination you can think of: the darkness, the mountain, and a Porsche. And every Porsche in this race has had some sort of issue except the two. Sean Moriarty in 9th place, going very well indeed. Brian Knappen here is trying to pass Eckhart for the 5th overall place. And Ben Lutherland, by the way, has caught Lima for 3rd place.
Yeah, it would look like at the minute going quite well, as we says. A lot of the Silver Championship. Oh wait, hang on. That's Cody Pride. That's the PPR Esports car.
Oh my goodness, Cody Pride coming into Skyline. What happened?
Do we think this is going to be a slight twitch over coming into Skyline? It is a very
yep.
Oh, it is a very dangerous place for it. Touch of the wall. Oh, and then gets
what in the world?
It touches the inside curb. The inside curb on that corner. It is actually when you're coming up to it, it looks pretty flat, but it is actually quite a curb. And if you're going at it, especially in quite a low slung car like the McLaren, it will definitely upset that. But yeah, that is a sad moment for the number 15 PPR Esports. Now we'll see if he continues.
25's off.
25 is off in the chase. Off, yeah. We can't see that.
Looks like they got it going. They were off in the chase. They went sort of out near the hotel, but I don't think they had contact with anybody else. We'll find out. Here is Kumpu in the 25.
Oh, back end snap.
Yeah, I saw them off in the dirt where the hotel is. Oh, hello there. Fans getting a closer look than they expected tonight. But a little bit of a touch.
This that's one of the better crashes, as in you did damage the car at all. Bit of a damage Pride and shake the gravel out of those tires. But yeah, Cody Pride in the pits for the 15. get that car sort of fixed back up.
The worst part about all this is it's not inside the pit window, so these pit stops do not count.
No, they will have to pit at least once more.
Well, it has been pretty much what we expected to see. A lot of early dramas in the dark. And unfortunately, there's still an hour, 20 minutes of the race left. And it's bad news bears for everybody, including leader Harry Spears, who now, with a nearly 10-second lead, his one and only objective at this point has to be protect his car and protect the lead. And, well, trouble can find you in a hurry around here. So it's very important that you stay out of trouble as long as you possibly can. And just like that, the 70-minute pit window has opened.
Yeah, if you were going to have a crash, you almost wanted to have it now, as it's now Porsche on Porsche. Sean Moriarty and Lavalle, matched machines. Another bit of a twitch. There's those monumental curves that are down the chase area. They will chew you up and spit you out. And then there's Sebastian Brunier at the front of this train as well, trying to run away from both Porsches.
Seb Bernier doing a great job. Remember where he qualified outside the top 10. He's in the 8th place, and he's trying to get Moriarty for 7th here. And it's all going to plan for Seb Brunier thus far. And of course, he is in a battle for 3rd place in the Silver Championship, though he's going to give the outside to Lavalle here. Can't really make an outside move from that far back and has to fall back in line. And the battle for these three continues. Question from the chat: why is there a pit window for an endurance race? RCI doesn't consider 90 minutes an endurance race, is the simple answer to that.
Oh, another touch of the wall from one of the Porsches.
Ooh.
Be careful.
Remember when I said Sean Moriarty was the only Porsche to not get involved in any early damage or dramas?
Yeah, exactly. Ruined it now. As I says, it's just your mandatory tap. You know, once you've got it out of the way. But yes, we, as Jesse pointed out, 90 minutes RCI classes as not really an endurance. We just class it as a bit of finale. We do have a proper endurance tour at the minute with the World Tour, with anything from, you know, 8, 10, 24 hours. We've been there, we've done that.
Yes, and very much next weekend, the 8 hours of Monza. Qualifying conducted earlier in the afternoon. Like and subscribe, hit that bell. Do not miss the GT World Endurance Tour here on RCI TV. 8 full hours of racing from Monza in Italy. And if it's anything like the qualifying today, it is going to be, I think we might set a record for lead changes.
Yeah, looking at that, that's going to be quite a nutso race. We see Ben Lutherland on screen, sort of slowly reeling in Lima, it almost looks like. In the past couple of laps, you know, they've been very, very close. The Bentley of Ben Lutherland, the last lap was just a little bit quicker, but I mean, they do have the slipstream advantage. So that's going to be an interesting thing to drive. I know, having driven the Bentley here in RCI's 12 Hours of Bathurst, Bentley is lovely over the mountain, but you do lose out a little bit in the straight line versus some of the other cars, especially if you're going up versus a car that has the setup of taking all the wing out, because you can't really do much to someone over the mountain. You know, it's very, very risky to do so. And then you can't really touch them in the straight line. You just got to sort of tuck under the wing and hope.
Well, Cody Pride in pit lane with Zeege as well. Zeege in the number 7 is in pit lane and still sitting there. Cody Pride, I think, is going to be done for the day. They're going to wheel that car back into the to the garage here. Cody Pride in our chat says, made one tiny mistake and now can't make it back since the pit window. And Harry Conway joking, says, I see you've had the McLaren experience, Cody. But very funny indeed. But unfortunate for Cody Pride, as that is sort of what you expect on the mountain. Some people are going to get bid, and unfortunately, Cody Pride, one of those here today, and looking like they're not going to be able to finish the race.
Yeah, as you mentioned, the McLaren experience. The McLaren experience is a case of it's very planted right up until the moment it isn't. As Brian Knappen is getting very much the BMW experience of, I have a better run than you, but the BMW says, no thank you, I'm just going to power away in the straight line. Like, look at that, they're in the slipstream, the BMW's just driving away.
That BMW is one Bathurst wide, and that's sort of also part of the problem too, is that even if you could pass him on the mountain, you really can't, because that thing is very, very wide, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it. But if the Aston does get a good enough run, I suspect he will take it.
You can see the Aston Martin over the mountain. It really, really closes back into the BM. The BM is quite a big, heavy, sort of lumbering boat. Quite an old car as well. When you actually look at it, you know, versus the rest of the field. It's been around the block quite a few times now. But yeah, in a straight line, really, it's hard to beat a BMW sometimes at a track.
Cody says this was a tough race, but he's still beaming because of his qualifying effort earlier. And shoot, if I was Cody Pratt, I would be too. That was a heck of a start. And the 8-hour race next weekend at Monza, you like to qualify well for that, don't you? Because you get to celebrate all week that you got into Super Pole and did well. So that's it's good to hear. Staying positive, that's what we look for. But again, this is the same problem here. Didn't pull away, did the 32 of Eckhart. Didn't quite get away from Knappen that time. But still, unfortunate part of it is there are more straightaways ahead of them. Well, this is the man, the myth, the legend, Harry Spears for Sidemax Motorworks. He took the pole today and immediately set upon driving away from the field. He's been helped by the field. Jose Jorge's and Cody Pride both having their early incidences. It's worth mentioning that Jose Jorge's has closed his garage door. He will take no further part in the race today.
Yeah, it would really not surprise me if it's not going to be long looking at the track map before Harry Spears comes up on his first back marker, which is like, yeah, less than half an hour into the race so far. Going to definitely make things interesting as this battle continues to rage on. They asked him versus the BM, who says each time it's just, you can close on them through the mountain, but it's just so hard to do anything. Sparks fly, getting it as close to the wall as possible.
I love it. I love it. Very, very beautiful sort of pictures here. Nick Setnick, he must have cat's eyes or something. He can see in the dark. We can't. But he's picking up all the good shots. And, well, even if Eckhart makes a mistake on the mountain, it's not really going to matter because unless he goes completely off into a gravel trap somewhere, even if he makes a mistake, passing him is a big risk. And part of racing is risk versus reward. So what would you do, Ryan Mawson? Would you, if he makes a mistake, Eckhart, and he sort of stays on track, do you attempt to pass him in a narrow part of the track, or do you wait for something more? What do you do? What's your strategy?
If it's over the mountain, I would probably say no, just because I've rarely seen where someone has gone for, you know, they've had a wobble, they've gone for a move and it has paid off. It's very, very, very narrow with some of these GT cars. What I would then be doing is if they have made a mistake and hit the wall, you use the damage that they've gained. You know, that will slow you down on the straights, and you know you pass them that way. But yeah, I would still be sitting behind. Timothy Flamger in for the first of the what will be classed as a mandatory stop. So even if you have damage to fix, that will get rid of his pit stop. Sebastian Brunier dropped down to 13th at the minute, currently up behind the 427 Ferrari of Sizek.
It's worth mentioning as well, Cody Pride has officially closed the door on their drive for the day. They have also dropped out of the race after the early crashes, but many battles still going on. In fact, from 10th all the way down to 13th, Seb Brunier still fighting one another. Of course, Flamger in pit road will do their mandatory stop. They will be the first of the drivers still in contention here today to do their mandatory stop. So we'll see where the 19 Ferrari ends up.
It's certainly an interesting strategy, because that will mean that obviously they're going for a longer strategy. They're going for the 1 hour, you know, we're about 1 hour 9 on that tank of fuel and those tires. Can work out though, if you just get in your own little bubble, you haven't got anyone to battle, you're not involved in the crashes, you're not involved in anything, you just let the race happen in front of you, and then by the end of the race, that's all sort of reeled back past. We've seen plenty of people who've pitted super early. You know, you see them come into the pits, you think, oh well, they're almost last, they're out of the race, and by the end of it, they've somehow magically become, you know, fourth in their class. It's just sometimes how the race happens.
Well, you can't ever count out strategy. We get a lot of questions from people. Why usually in these short races do you make them only take a 1 liter of fuel and not tires? Well, the simple answer is that the strategy is there either way. We're not telling them they can't take tires. And it's more about when you come to pit road and how you come to pit road. And trust me, folks, if you're new to sports car racing, well, it's very simple. It all depends on where you come in, and 2 pit stops at different times in the race are never created equal. So what you do in the pit lane is rather besides the point. It's the point that you have to come at some point. And the $1 million question is when? Well, for Flamger in the 19 Ferrari, he has decided that the right time was at 1 hour and 10 minutes because he wanted to be the first one on pit road. And how many times this season have we seen the first person that comes to pit road gains a ton of spots and time on everyone else? But I just have to wonder, how fuel efficient is that Ferrari? He's going to go 1 hour, 10 minutes on fuel and tires. That's a big ask around the mountain.
Yeah, I'd be less concerned about the fuel. The Ferrari it's not the best in the field on fuel, but it is still pretty good. The sort of smaller liter twin turbo V8 of that Ferrari, they are pretty good on fuel. They're no Bentley, for example, or, you know, Mclaren, and that tank. What I would be more concerned is obviously you've now got 1 hour and 9 on the tires. You do also, I don't think it will happen, but we've got 1 hour and 7 left, so we're going to go, you know, a little bit more into the morning. That means you've got to set your tire pressures right. If you've not sort of you're built into your strategy, if it's going to heat up, or tested if it heats up, and then it heats up, you've got two higher pressure tires now.
Speaking of heating up, Brunier and Renoir cannot quit each other, and they are locked into a battle. McLaren versus Lamborghini, the only Lamborghini in this race. This is for what will de facto be a top 10 spot.
And there's a Ferrari in the background. They're having a bit of a recovery. Was that the 25 of Kumpu, I think?
It is indeed. Yeah, Kumpu, who had that issue coming through the chase. And of course, Akar in pit lane. That's not a bad decision by Akar. He was being hunted down. So I don't blame him at all for coming into the pit lane, getting the service done. And I'd rather be proactive than reactive. And I think that's what the 32 BMW is doing indeed. As Sizek here for 27 has caught up to Solns in the 23 Audi.
Yeah, and as with that, with the BMW now pitting, that should be the sort of the signal to Brian Knappen in his 40 to just go, 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 because obviously the BMW will now be trying to undercut you to be coming out later, ahead of you. But if the Aston Martin was being held up by him, you obviously now need to bang in every lap, a good lap, a good pace, a fast one, and then you can still overcut people. Generally, we find that the undercut is a little bit stronger of a strategy. You get the better tires earlier, you start going faster again. But the overcut, I have seen it work multiple times, especially around Bathurst. It really depends where your car is strong. If you're being held up over the mountain, you want to overcut someone. If you know that yours is mainly a straight line speed car and you're being hunted down, you want to undercut someone.
Well, we expect several teams to have different strategies. We expect to, in about 5 minutes time, so in about 2 laps time or so, we expect to see a group of cars come in because they know they can go an hour. And then I would suspect the biggest group will be right around 45 minutes. That's about halfway. And of course, you will always have, usually speaking, one or two stragglers, as I call them, late to the pit lane that are trying to make their strategy work. And of course, this is Harry Spears, who is in traffic. Now I think that's going to be Heilman there in front. That is not Heilman in front.
That is the big BM of Akar.
That is Akar, is indeed. So he is going to be the first car lapped on the track. Heilman is the next one on the track. He's a 26 Porsche going to the chase right now. But for Harry Spears, it's ultimately important that he does not chance his car or his run, because clearly he has the best car as far as speed is concerned. And you got to protect that. You don't want to mess that up. Seb Brunier, of course, with the sequence of pit stops, has put himself inside the top 10. So this battle between Brunier and Renoir is now for the 9th place position. And in Sector 1, it looks like Brunier's got him. But I just feel like maybe around here, get to Forest Elbow, he loses a little something.
Yeah, it seems that going down the mountain, the McLaren maybe not as strong as the Lamborghini. Both cars sort of, similar handling, of both mid-engined. But yeah, as you sort of pointed out, we've seen Seb sort of reeling back in through Sector 1 over the first half of the mountain, and then it's going downhill where things start to sort of run away for the Lambo. That may kind of make sense though, because the McLaren is quite the downforce based car, and going down the mountain is very slow. You won't have much airflow over that car to keep it planted, so maybe you're just taking it a little bit easier. As Renoir pulls into the pits, 732 dives off.
I feel like that was a bit of a forced hand. He had Brunier all over him. Renoir, of course, fighting for a place in the championship as well as Brunier. So if you have the opportunity to execute a strategy, it may not have been the one you wanted, but at least you are the one that has the high ground. If you come in early, you're taking it into your own hands, and Renoir certainly doing that in the 732. Now, I believe the 732 was the one who got involved in the Jose Jorge's incident in Forest Elbow. I think he got a piece of that, and I don't know if he pitted. I don't suspect he would have, because I don't think he would have gotten back to where he is. So he would certainly be carrying some sort of damage as well. Be interesting to see that pit stop delta to see if Renoir fixes any of that damage. That was a solid hit into the driver door that the Lamborghini did to the Ferrari. But everybody now, all the battles have been broken up for the time being due to pit strategy. Only 3 cars have come in, as you can see on your screen. Akar, Flamger, and Kumpu, and of course now Renoir. Zeech is still sitting in pit lane, but he is effectively out of the race. So we got 15 cars here circulating still. And, well, you know what they say, you only need 2 to have a race. I reckon about 15 is good enough to have a really interesting race.
Yeah, especially around the mountain. I mean, any amount of cars around the mountain You don't even need sometimes big packs to have action. You can have scary action all by yourself going over the top of the mountain.
Well, talked about Seb Brunier in the 769 earlier. Talk about who he's racing. He's racing the number 25 Ferrari Kumpu for third place in the championship. It's very doable for him. And as we get closer to the finish, we will go over what both drivers need to do. Effectively, Kumpu just needs to finish in front of Brunier. As it stands now, Brunier would have retaken the third place in the championship from Kumpu, and that's as they run right now. And of course, we know Kumpu has had issues earlier, but also has pitted, so they're well far down.
Yeah, just looking through, as he says, pretty much all the battle. Everyone's sort of spaced themselves out of the battles for the minute. Paulo Lima is pulling away slowly from Ben Lutherland in that 861 Bentley. Can happen as obviously in a bit of a undercut-overcut strategy with the BMW of Ekar. And yeah, Sebastian is now once again in an undercut-overcut battle with Remoir, and then trying to get away from Kumpu. It's all sort of settled out for at least for a moment. But it could be the calm before the storm. Everyone obviously, once everyone's back out of the pits, a lot of the battles will resume, and that still doesn't mean that in the meantime someone can have a bit of their own problems over the mountain.
You know, one of my favorite things to do is to attempt to predict the future. Yeah, I love doing that. I think I'm going to do that right. I don't know how Nick knew what I was going to do or say, but very intelligent man, Nick Setnick. This is exactly what I'm talking about. I have a feeling no matter where Harry Spears catches Benjamin Heilman, Heilman's going to pull over for the leader. Why do I think that, folks? Because, well, every time he's been lapped this season, whenever it's happened, well, that's what Benjamin's done. So I assume that is what's going to happen. Now, I'm very interested in that because obviously Heilman's still running his race. That man knows no give up. And we know that for certain because he's called a season with me and Ryan Mawson and me and Nate as well. And he's had to deal with Ryan Gill for a very long period of time. So that all being said, we can safely assume that the man doesn't give up. Of course, Benjamin Heilman, the pink and blue car, that is one of our broadcasters and stewards here at RCI, very clearly doing neither one of those things on Saturday night. They're racing. So look at this. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Not pulling over as extreme as I thought he would have done, but a very excellent orchestrated sort of maneuver. Heilman giving him the complete inside there. And, well, if all passing was that easy, Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, part of that as well is Heilman did have to sort of, anchor on the brakes or just entirely let off. You are a Porsche in a straight line versus an AMG. So, even if people will think, oh, it's very nice, he's lifting for me. Meanwhile, in the Porsche, you've got your foot welded to the firewall saying, give me more power, please. But
it's weird. Porsche spends all that money designing a car and they couldn't think to give it 2 extra cylinders. It's weird.
At least now he will have the toe of Harry Spears, so you can just sort of tuck into the slipstream and hopefully gain something. Thing is, though, the Porsche it's very strange actually race car when you look at it in the various seasons it runs in. If you watch it in VLN, which is an entirely different set of balance of performance, the thing is really, really rapid in a straight line. It really goes. You're into the sort of 280 kilometers an hour down the back of the Nordschleife, and it's like, yeah, it's just a different balance of performance that SRO decided the Porsche shall not have fun in a straight line.
Now, I haven't read the VLN rule set as Sean Moriarty in the pit lane, and we can confirm damage on the two. Ryan, you called that earlier when he hit the wall, and there is, in the light in the pit lane, the result of those incidences. They're tapping the wall. So there will not be an unscathed Porsche today. but I haven't paid attention to VLN rules in the last few years, so I'm not sure how they've changed. I know they have proprietary BOP because they only race at the Nürburgring, so it's actually quite easy to get a BOP that sort of works. And I do believe that the difference between this and that, and this and VLN, is that I believe they're allowed to run the turbos at whatever bar they want. I think they're not restricted, and these definitely are. But yes, those cars absolutely scream down the back straight at the ring.
Yeah, there's part of that and part of the tire compounds. You know, each one runs on different SRO, which is what ACC uses. We use the Pirellis. The Pirellis are very much an endurance-based tire. They are, if you are liking it to Formula One, these would be your hard compounds. These are very, very, good wearing, but they're maybe not the best for absolute ultimate speed. Whereas a lot of the other seasons run Michelins. Michelins are basically super softs. They are very sticky, very grippy, but you will shred them in a couple of laps. But it's all sort of interesting to see, the balance of performance, what cars does what. I mean, the one that I always like, and the car that I actually like to drive around Bathurst here, and the car that you would think is just not in for it, is the old V12 Vantage. Still has, to this day, a favourable bop at Bathurst, because you've got two great big straights where you can just power away from everybody. And that car still races at real Bathurst. We see it do quite well there. That car is... I don't even know how long that car's been running now, but it's a long old way.
T-Bolt in chat asking, did Kuno slow down the Porsche because SRO did? The short answer to that question is yes, that's exactly what happened, because Kuno's has attempted to replicate as close as they possibly can to the real-world SRO BOP, of which this simulation represents. So, short answer, yes. And it does have its tracks, mind you, the Porsche. There are a couple of tracks where the Porsche is still the car that you want. Of course, that has, that's sort of the thing, isn't it? You want tracks that benefit others, and we have car in the wall there.
That is the 32, the BMW. I'll not be helping their undercut strategy.
No, that's Eckhart is having a bad sort of run of luck here, as he is going to have to. Oh, that's dangerous. If I was you, mate, I would have just hit reverse on that. But I see he has decided to come back down pit road and fix the damages. So that is not going to do him any sorts of good. What that might do, though, is help Kumpu up, and it will indeed help Kumpu up one more spot. That's important because keep in mind, Kumpu is racing Brunier for third in the Silver Championship. So one more spot gained for Kumpu on his recovery drive.
Yeah, exactly. And as you mentioned earlier, yeah, Porsche definitely has its tracks. I mean, a lot of times, as we said, balance of performance in the SRO world is they do it over a season. So it's each car, the sort of the saying of every dog has its day. Each car will have a track which it suits very well. But realistically, all these cars are, within a couple of tenths of each other. So it's not like one can just run away with the season. They can't do that. But like, if I was going to pick a Porsche for a race, I'd be wanting to go to, say, I don't know, Catalonia. It's a very lovely car there.
I definitely wouldn't mind going to Kyalami with a Porsche, as long as it's dry, of course.
And the other added bonus of the Porsche, especially at the night race, what we're seeing today, they look awesome going down the straight with that great big glowing muffler.
Yes, indeed. The unparalleled realism and attention to detail in ACC is very much the yardstick in simulation. And quite frankly, if you believe otherwise, then go ahead and stick your head back in the sand, mate, because it really is unparalleled and unrivaled in almost every single facet, and be very interested to see. We know Kunos, because it said publicly here on RCI TV that yes, they are in pre-production working on a project, and of course they can't say what it is or when it will be arriving, or even when they will announce what it is, or if it is anything. Very secretive they are, but be very interested indeed awaiting the next title, because it just seems like yesterday we were talking about, well, you can't make a serious simulation racing game in Unreal Engine. That's silly. Nobody would do that. And well, it turns out that they made the best one.
What we are saying, Jesse, is that they have confirmed a thing, but we cannot confirm the thing.
They've done a thing, but they can't tell us about the thing, and there's going to be a thing, but we don't know about the thing. Look into the light and say cheese, basically, neuralizer stuff. But I mean, of course, kudos. You didn't think they were going to stop at ACC, obviously. They, of course, are on a roll. I mean, 2 hits in a row. They got past the difficult second album. What about the third?
Yeah, pretty much. And as we start to see a couple more of the people on our timing board turn green, Paulo Lima completed their mandatory stops. As he says, a lot of the drivers still sort of, saying to hang out. It says we'll see what happens around about the 45-minute mark. That will be halfway into this race, which is normally when you'd expect most drivers to come in, but maybe not all drivers to come in. You know, as he says, it entirely depends. Are you going long, or what is your strategy? Benjamin Heilman as well in the pits for the 26th. This will be their first mandatory stop. So even though they came down the pit lane earlier, this is the first one in the window. So they will get rid of their mandatory.
Yes, indeed. As now the pit stops flowing, I expect to see more people. This is just the tip of the iceberg here as we creep ever closer to the halfway point in the race. I suspect every lap now we'll be getting more and more teams down the pit lane. What a race Lima is having, running second overall. He couldn't have imagined the dramas that would befall Jose Jorge's and Cody Pride in front of him. Well, he has been given the second place spot and unrivaled at the moment. And of course, pitting and completing his stop. Going back out there, Ben Lutherland as well, running very well inside the top 5. I think he actually might be third overall. But of course, we will have to see.
I believe so, but at the minute, sort of being hunted down by the 40 of Knappen, being released from behind the BMW. Sort of very similar lap times though, for each of those drivers, the Bentley and the Aston Martin. The last one for Knappen was a 202.6 and Ben Lutherland was a 202.9, so a couple of attempts here and there. We'll have to see how that plays out. Obviously then once they've completed their stops, what will happen to each of those drivers. So you can't gain an advantage in this race in the pit stops, because each pit stop, because this is a mandatory tyre swap race, will be 30 seconds. So it doesn't matter if you put 1 litre of fuel in or 100 litres of fuel in. It doesn't make your stop any shorter. It used to be that the splash and dash, that's how you could make your pit stops short. But not this race, not for the finale.
Well, the 26 out of pit road, that was a longer stop than usual. Damage repair on Heilman's car. So that car was carrying a bit of damage, that confirmed by the driver himself. I think he might have said something in the effect of 30 seconds of damage to his car. Of course, Heilman is just collecting laps at this point. He's several laps down. He doesn't care. He's out here picking up the pieces of everybody else's, and he knows that we're talking about him. That flash was for all of us here at RCI TV and you as well at home. How does he know? He's not even working the cameras and he knows the cameras are on him.
He's got the broadcaster sense. Maybe he's looking for that tiny little red dot on the camera. He knows what one we've got pointed on him. 23 of Sones in the pits. Look at a very scratched up race car.
You've been to one of a few places if your car looks like that. Macau, Bathurst, Darlington Raceway, or at a smash-up derby anywhere in the world, quite frankly. That's how your car gets to look like that. And I love how we do not see some of the damage on these cars, but when they come into pit lane where it's nice and lit, it tells the tale of what has been going on out there in the darkness.
Oh, they have been to Monza Turn 1. That is also a good place for it.
Well, they're not upside down. Well, they are upside down because they're in Australia, but they're not physically upside down, which would actually make it right way up. So they're not upside down right way up, which tells me that they're not been in Turn 1 of Monza. We will see that next week. The 8 hours of Monza, part of the RCI World Endurance Championship. And we hope to see you there. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell to join us. Ryan Mawson will be there. Nick Setnick will be there. I'll be there with you, as well as Ryan Gill, Mike Jones, and some other fantastic commentators and guests as well. So go ahead and join us for that. We would love to have you as Tyler Jason LaValle comes into pit lane. That Porsche looks only a little bit crunched. And here comes Seb Brunier. And that looks to be, who is that in front of him?
That is the 19. That's Flamger.
So Flamger's coming in again. Might I suggest he's had a trip to the wall somewhere?
Yeah, it looks like it. I sort of spotted once again a bit of damage on the back. As we said, Jesse, 45 minutes and pretty much everyone's in now. He's just left the 2 cars lapping in the dark is the 861 of Ben Lutherland and the 40 of Knappen. This will be sort of the last of the, well, at last of the late pitters. It's not really late in the pit window, but yeah, their strategy calls for them going long.
I think I know what Ben's doing here. And if he doesn't pit, I can confirm what he's doing.
You trying to use your magical powers like you did at Suzuka at the start of the season, Jesse?
No, not at all. But I think Ben's trying to do something, and we'll see here. Just give him a minute because I think he wants me to make an announcement. That is, of course, unless he pits here, and he's not thinking about that. But he definitely is staying out. So, ladies and gentlemen, at home, prepare yourselves. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a new leader around the mountain. Ben Lutherland leads a lap around Bathurst. Second leader of the race. That's what he wanted. He wanted to lead a lap. Not the me part. He doesn't care about us, but that he wanted to lead a lap.
Well, he's now accomplished that. He is now the last car going around. Knappen has pulled in.
This will be interesting. I'd be interested to see where Brian Knappen comes out. Remember, he was falling back. He was in a fight earlier, but was falling back out of the fight for third. Be very interested to see how that all works out for him coming out of the pit lane. Well, Harry Spears has already got around him. No surprise. It says 3 on the window, but I promise you it's just because he hasn't tripped the line yet. He's definitely second. As it's all pretty much went to plan for the Sidemax Motorworks driver. But speaking of all going to plan, 8th place for Anderson, getting by what appears to be Renoir behind him.
Yeah, it would look that, as we said earlier, the 732 of Renoir did have it seemed just a little bit of damage, and that's the 23 of Sones. the Audi just behind them as well. So this could be shaping up for a bit of a three-way battle. The two cars behind had damage and fixed it. That's how they'd ended up behind Anderson. A bit of a
Uh-oh.
wibble wobble from Sons.
Well, I was going to say that car doesn't look right, but I think it was just a bad sequence of corners. I thought certainly he was going to duck down pit road the way that car was going. Almost looked like suspension damage on the reverse sandbag racing 23 Audi. Turns out not to be the case. And here is Ben Lutherland. Turns out he did just want to lead a lap. Lutherland in for the X-Kart Esports Bentley. And he will, I think, go back to somewhere around 5th.
Yeah, it would look like it, especially with the track map at the minute. The 18, which is Paulo Lima, the what we thought was going to continue to be the current leader in silver, coming down Conrad Straight.
There he went. There goes Harry Spears by the pit lane. Lutherland still getting service. Here comes the 18 into the chase. So Ryan Renoir has retaken the 8th place position from Anderson.
And now Anderson is being now Anderson's been hounded by the 23 just in the background.
Been an interesting few laps between Anderson and Renoir. Love to have a radio of him, hear what's been going on. A couple of swaps in difficult parts of the track, it would seem. Paulo Lima does cycle through into 2nd place, but I think that is Lutherland right behind him. So Lutherland cycles out to 3rd. And here's the interesting thing. LaValle somehow is up to 4th place.
Yeah, we had mentioned that sometimes that is, I think LaValle wasn't one of the first pitters, but he was definitely one of an earlier one, wasn't he? And sometimes that is just, you know, you get out of the battles, you get out of any potential crashes, you get out of all that at Bathurst and just run your race. It ends up all sort of coming to you at the end. But yeah, he's ended up in 4th place, sort of in his own little bubble. Can happen behind. It'll be interesting to see what they can do. They've got maybe the slightly newer tyres in the same way that the battle between Lutherland and Lima will shape up. Lutherland just coming out on brand new tyres. Lima is maybe a couple laps old. But you know, that could all play to it right at the end of the race.
Yes, indeed. And, well, the battle for 2nd place is very well and truly on. And Lima had several seconds gap on Lutherland before the pit stop occurred, and that has all evaporated. So Lutherland did a great job. He pitted. Yeah, that's an example. Ryan, you said that earlier. Sometimes pitting late works for you if you have speed. Well, Lutherland did pit late, one of the last ones to go, and he has erased a several second gap for 2nd place. Folks, this is for 2nd on the overall podium. That doesn't pay points, but what does is winning. Well, every place pays points, but you know it pays more points? 1st place in your category, and that's what this fight is all about. 1st place for silver at stake here.
They'll be walking away today with 2 trophies. Well, either of these so far, but yeah, I think the Bentley, a lot of times the strategy, if you do drive a Bentley, is a very, very good endurance car. You know, it's very good on the tires. You can sort of out edge people. Mercedes often, you know, it's a very fuel hungry car, and it does sort of like to chew tires. So a lot of times you're kind of limited in an AMG, and your strategy is go fast. You know, weld your foot to the floor and be fast. A Bentley, you can sort of out strategy people a little bit. So that's and as we've seen that, basically, yeah, the gap has evaporated.
Well, following the stories of the race, this being the main one right now, the battle for the silver win with 36 minutes to go. Very early morning indeed here at the Mount Panorama, Bathurst, Australia. But there is another battle going on. It is the one between Kumpu and Seb Brunier, who, by the way, started outside the top 10 today. And with his his racing, obviously, because he raced up inside the top 10, but also his pit strategy, the 769, is up into 7th place. And that's earnest, too, because he has a 10-second gap in front of him to Sizek, but he also has a 13-second gap to Renoir behind him. Why is that important? Well, his competitor for 3rd place in the overall standings here in the season finale is down in 12th, and that's a boatload of points.
Yeah, exactly. We said that the Silver Championship was pretty much all open, ready to play for, and yeah, as we're seeing, we've still got 35 minutes left, so that can, well, 35 minutes of shake-ups can occur, but the Silver battles look to be really hotting up. As it says, Pro, maybe less so, can happen. Still sort of hanging on to the back of the Silver train in front, try to catch back up to Lavalle. Sizek in his own little bubble as well. And then obviously the rest of the Silver battles of Brunier, Renoir, Henderson. Moriarty's back into the pits in that number 2 Porsche as well.
Yes, he is. And I can tell you somebody else that's in the pit lane. They've closed the garage doors, the 23 of Sones. Sones has retired from this race. That's going to leave us 13 cars on track. Wonder if Moriarty in the 2 has had more adventures on the mountain. Well, the battle for 2nd place in the race and the win in the silver class. These two going at it. Lima in the AMG in front. This is Lutherland's Bentley you're riding on board, and other than the headlights, it is absolutely pitch black steel. But you know, racing drivers, they don't really need much to get by. They sort of have the track muscle memorized.
Yeah,
that all being said, it doesn't help your sight lines at all.
No, that Bentley took him right up behind the Mercedes, going down Conrad Straight. I was like, do you know the story of why it's actually called Conrad Straight?
Is it because a car blew a Conrad through the engine block or something at some point?
Yeah, it was I think it was something like in the 30s. There was a Conrad failure on one of the Hudson race cars, and yeah, it just completely shattered the block to pieces. So then it was called Conrad Straight after that.
Do you know what's interesting about Hudson as a manufacturer? Welcome to the RCI podcast, by the way. Do you know what's interesting about the Hudson? It was one of the only cars that from that era that were dual purpose. It could road race, it could win time trial rallies, and it raced in NASCAR as well.
Yeah, back in the old days.
Back when you used to get the elbows out the window to compensate for not having power steering. Oh dear.
Is it me? Or is that Porsche Lavalle also slowly closing in on this battle?
So I didn't want to say anything, but Lavalle is indeed catching Lutherland, and I think some of that is the fact that Lutherland is held up by Lima, but I think a lot of that is perhaps Lavalle has found his groove. Of course, we never really knew what Lavalle's speed was because of the early drama, the early incident, the contact that the 935 had. Obviously, you would imagine that's been repaired if they're this quick. But now time is ticking away, and there are headlights in the rear view mirror that are getting quite big for Lutherland, and he aims that it's go time and gets covered off by Lima down in the final turn, getting a bit dicey now.
Yeah, you can tell that Bentley really wants past the Mercedes, but as we said it earlier, a tale of two cars, one with great straight line speed and maybe a little bit slow over the mountain, and the other one with all the handling over the mountain, but not much to say in the straight line speed. And yeah, we can really see now that 935 Porsche, that is almost a second eroded in that lap alone. So he's really got the groove of that Porsche, has finally sort of got it handling well over the mountain. I really think that'll be incredibly interesting once the Porsche catches up, especially once he gets into slipstream range. He'll really start pulling on them.
And by the way, someone asking in chat, who were the last several winners? Well, I know I can't really speak for us, but I know in the actual Bathurst race that used the same regulations, by the way, it's been Nissan, McLaren, Ferrari, Audi, Porsche. I do know that. I watch
And
way too much
Bentley.
motorsport. Oh, yes. And of course, the Bentley was in the actual GT race, wasn't it? Was it? No,
Yeah,
that was a 12
yeah.
hour. That was a 12 hour.
Yeah, it was a 12 hour. It was the 2020, I think it was last year. It was Bentley's last year, and they won with the very sort of striking metallic green and black diamond number 8 and number 7 car. And I think it was the 8 which won. It was the weekend where we had it was very blistering hot, if you remember. We had a load of tire blowouts. It was quite an interesting 12 hour.
Yeah, it was very interesting indeed. And well, you know what they say, you learn something new every day, and just when you think you have the game figured out, the game changes. And the game, of course, is motorsport, and you're never quite sure. As the 19 of Flamger is in pit road, and they have been sitting there for some time, and that helps Kumpu now, who is now gaining spots. He's running last of the cars on the track, but that is not
Ooh, a slide.
his concern right now. Could this potentially be a move for Lutherland now?
You can really see though what the drive of the Mercedes has got, the straight line speed.
Go on, son. Get around the outside. Oh, he kind of covers him a little bit. He thinks better of it. I see some damage on Lima's car.
Yeah, actually, the spoiler, it has some scratches on it.
Well, I noticed when Lutherland pulled out, the entire left side of that car, Ryan, is scratched up.
Oh.
I think we found our speed discrepancy.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is again! There it is again!
And the Porsche is now deciding that, hey, I can be involved in this battle too. And now it becomes the point when you're Lutherland, it's sort of the worst possible place to be, because now you've got, anytime you go for a move, you're opening the door for that Porsche, and you don't want to let the Porsche by if you're then going over the mountain, because they will just drive away from you. You've got to sort of keep Porsches behind you and just run away on the straights.
For me, this is the hardest thing that you can do on the mountain when you're third in line and you cannot see your sight lines going into corners because there's two cars that are right up in front of you. It is so easy to miss a turn-in point, to miss your cue to brake and have an incident into the wall. One scrape against the wall can completely change the aerodynamics of your car and ruin your shot. If you're LaValle, you have to think, why not me? I could finish second here and I could win my class, the top 3 in silver, racing for second overall, but in a line, second, third, and fourth. I don't know who my money's on.
Oh, we have seen LaValle just really showing some bouts of speed. You know, remember at Misano, an incredible drive at Misano. So he has really shown us what he can do with that Porsche. And once again today, showing us the Silvers have brought their A game out, showing us what they can do at Bathurst.
Well, of course, LaValle's 6th in this championship. He stands to gain. He's only 9 points behind Lutherland in the championship for 5th. So this could very much be a play as well for that. But you got to be very careful indeed about how you go about it here, because a day where you're looking like you're going to finish on the podium could be completely ruined where you finish with the garage door coming down.
Yeah, you've also got to be careful when you're this close about the dirty air. Obviously, these cars with a lot of aero on them, they kick up quite a turbulence behind them. And when you get this close to people, you know, Bathurst does still require quite a lot of downforce over the fast section, the first section of this mountain. And you do, yeah, the closer you get to the person in front, the more you start to realize that, you know, your car starts handling a little bit funny. And that's just the dirty aero wash. Some cars more akin to it than others, especially if you're like, you know, in a Mclaren or a Ferrari. You really notice it if there's something big and bulky in front of you, because yeah, your front end just disappears.
Well, it is that time of the race, Ryan, and I have been doing the maths. And well, if you're Seb Brunier, it's not good. Seb's going to have to hope that a few cars in front of him have some sort of issue that put them between him and Kumpu, because due to the retirements, Kumpu is now just 12 points behind Seb Brunier. Why is that a problem? Well, Seb Brunier is more than 12 points behind Kumpu for third in the standings. So he's going to need two of the cars in silver class in front of him to drop behind him, but still maintain in front of 11th place Kumpu to get that third spot. Well. Lutherland, who has had to go a bit defensive perhaps, has fallen off the back of Lima, but Lavalle has not fallen off the back. Look, you can see the transmission. You can see the transmission and all of the rear diffuser work getting as close as you dare. And having to, of course, back off for this section, because if you don't and the car in front of you has an issue, there's nowhere to go. He's going to take you with him.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, showing us some of the great angles from the splitter cam that Nick Setnick's bringing us tonight. But yeah, I think the Porsche wanted to very much show us that the Bentley has a rear transaxle. and is it me that the 18 of Lima looked like it had a little bit more damage as well? Look at the front end. This Bentley. Look at how the Bentley's catching on the straight.
Did Lima just hit the wall just now? I think he did.
The inside.
He absolutely has. Paulo Lima is going to lose the lead of silver and lose second place. He's in third. Could he stand to lose more? As Lavalle now pressuring him. Well, this is no good. Lima has to get clear because he has to come to pit road. Something happened to Paulo Lima. He had 2 seconds in the bag.
Yeah, Paulo Lima, the 18, coming back into the pits. Yeah, that front end, that is taking a hit.
This could be good news for Seb Brunier, however, because if Lima comes out between him and Kumpu, he might only need one more silver car, and he would be handed second place. Or third place, I should say. Third place in the championship.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, dear.
What a shakeup. Right to the end. Now that has released the Bentley and the Porsche. So now it'll be very interesting to see, can the Bentley run away from the Porsche? Lavalle looking very, very racy for this entire thing though. So, and has shown great pace in some of the previous races. Can he catch the Bentley and hold on down the straights?
Well, we're about to find out. Lavalle lost a significant portion of time having to pass the ailing car of Lima. And I would very much like to see, I don't know if we have one, but I would love to see what happened to Lima, because you're absolutely correct. I saw him with a 2-second gap, and you had mentioned that you caught the car in the light and it didn't look right. And right you were. That thing was crunched up.
Yeah, it did look like something around about the Forest Elbow era. But yeah, it's like as you said, there was just an almighty gap, which was then evaporated, and the straight line speed differences, as soon as you damage the aero on these cars, it really, really hampers your straight line speed.
And as
Well,
you were...
here's another bit of mystery, Ryan. We use a technology that allows us to go back in time and pull incidences. It's not telling us there was an incident. But
faded away into the night.
But we know that there was one because we just saw that car and it didn't look like that, and then all of a sudden it did. So very interesting indeed. The phantom crash in the dark on the mountain. You know that old saying, if a tree falls in the forest and nobody's around to hear it, doesn't happen. Well, if the marshals wave a yellow flag and no one's there to pass through the zone, did it ever happen?
Maybe the first rule about crashes at Bathurst is that you don't talk about crashes at Bathurst.
Oh, I see.
But that, as he says, the 18 of Lima has left the pit lane, and they are in between Kumpu and Seb, the Sebastian Brunier. So there would have to be one more silver car before he would be handed P3 in the Silver Championship so far. Looking back at this battle, Ben Lutherland and Tyler Jason LaValle, sort of, you know, once they got past the Ailing car, each of them have kind of paced themselves out now. The last laps very, very similar. Porsche maybe slightly quicker on the lap times, at least for the last laps, but as he says, it's very hard to pass a car when especially if they've got more straight line speed than you. Once again, it's a tale of two races. Porsche amazing over the mountain. Bentley would be better in a straight line than the Porsche. We'll see what they do when they cross the lines.
Well, I've been doing some more maths, and I do have the tail of the tape for you. Kumpu in 11th, Brunier in 6th place. And here is the damage. At the start of this race, Seb was 18 points behind Kumpu for 3rd overall. And as it stands, Brunier would gain 15 points. If Brunier got one more position in silver, I can confirm, would be enough to give him the 3rd place position. Kumpu is not going to lose a spot because the nearest driver to him is Flamger. He's 13 laps down. I don't think Kumpu is going to gain on Heilman because Heilman is 2 laps up. It is all on Seb Brunier, and I don't know if he's a religious man, but it might be time to start calling in some favors.
Yeah, especially with 17 minutes left to go. We've you've got over the worst of this race. You know, people have all sort of spread out. They're running their own races now. But I mean, you know, we saw how many cars did we see have problems in the first sort of 10 minutes of this race? We've still got longer than that to the end of the race, so I'm not going to discount anything yet.
Nirab Sarma in chat asked us a very amusing question. Do you have to refresh the time machine program? No, but occasionally we have to like sort of kick it and poke it with our elbows occasionally to get it to work correctly. That is the thing we have to do. And sometimes we get stranded back in the Grand Prix Legends days where everything was all 32-bit. So it's a bit of technical equipment, a bit tricky.
Oh, that's a name bringing back.
Ryan, I love having the old guard in here because we can talk about Grand Prix Legends. What a game!
I think the first sort of proper thing that I played, though, that got me into sim racing, and it's a game that no one else seems to have played this ever. No one else that I've ever talked to has ever played it. But do you ever remember Le Mans?
the first game called Le Mans to 24-hour?
I do, and it was wasn't it just dots on the screen?
This one was for the PS1 era, so we had sort of polygonal cars. It was like
Oh.
it was trying to think. It's like that kind of looks like a Lister Storm if you squint. But we thought it was amazing because you had a proper 24-hour race, as in real time 24-hour.
Did you
couldn't
really?
Yes, you couldn't save it. You had to just do 24-hour. There was no driver swaps either, unless you got your friend to come and play on the computer with you. And we thought it was amazing because it had day-night transition, which was like, wow.
That is Star Trek. No, I'm not familiar with the PS1 game. I believe there was an Atari 2600 game called Le Mans or something like that, and it was rough. It was very, very rough indeed. I had several racing games growing up, and I think one of my favorite was Bill Elliott's stock car something, and it couldn't have been really farther from the reality. It was an arcade racing game, but you couldn't tell me any different. I raced that with all of my heart. Pole Position, of course, my big favorite in the arcades. Pole Position 2 came out, too difficult. You had a choice of track, and that was too much for my little child brain to comprehend. But the original Pole Position was fantastic. That's a great thing about Pole Position, too. If you think about it, all those tracks were real. They didn't call them what they were actually called, but they were real tracks.
Yeah, it's always the easiest way to get around some. You see, seeing it all the time. So it's like, yeah, this is the X Storm Tornado. It's like it's a Lister Storm, but they can't say that. Oh, well, 26 back
yep.
in.
Looks like they've had another visit to the wall, and looks like they'll make another visit to the pit lane.
It's almost like a deja vu, but that could, depending how much damage there is, and depending how long that pit there is, where Kumpu is on the track, that could spell even more disaster for Sebastian Brunier if Kumpu manages to get in front of Heilmann. I don't know where they are on the track. I know they were either a lap or two down on Heilmann, but you could lose easily a lap if you've meatballed the car.
Yeah, we'll have to pay attention to just how long he is in the pit lane, the 26, and just see how much damage he has. We'll kind of eyeball it and guess here, I reckon. But, well, we're talking about the Lutherland-LaValle battle. Well, it has evaporated. Lutherland has driven away by 3 seconds. LaValle made progress after the Lima incident. And then all of a sudden, he was under a second. And then I'd be interested to see LaValle's car, see if he has any extra damage, because he is now falling off like a brick. And that's very uncharacteristic considering how he was able to hang on there. But if you haven't seen this man today, folks, well, that's because he was way out in front. That was Harry Spears there flashing by you. This is second place Ben Litherland in the 861. They've now gapped LaValle. That is LaValle in the background, though, the 935 hanging on to the third spot. Of course, Litherland leading the silver class. LaValle second in class and third overall. Knappen behind, and Sizek. Man, they have not seen, it just occurred to me, they have not seen another car in quite some time, have Knappen and Sizek. They've been sort of on their own.
Yeah, pretty much. But the other thing as well to consider, Jesse, with the Porsche, I think now it might be around about the time where the tyres will have started to go off, because if you remember, LaValle was an early pitter in this. So he has done... he's done a lot longer on the tyres than Ben in the Bentley has. So yeah, it might just be that time where they're just starting to lose that little bit of grip and have a couple of twitches. And I mean, around Bathurst, if you have a twitch, I think the safer option obviously is to hit the brakes and keep it out of the wall, but that doesn't do anything brilliantly for your pace.
Well, of course, we don't know anything about that because we stream on YouTube and not Twitch. Harry Spears leading the race by all of it. He's leading it by all of it, quite frankly. Litherland now just 3 seconds up as LaValle does start to carve into that time. Gonna have to get a move on is LaValle if he wants a shot at the win, and now it's all gone again. So I don't think the 861's picked up that much pace. I think that the 935 has had a visit to a wall, and Benjamin Heilman confirming in our in text as well that he does have more dents than he did previously, and that was the reason for his visit down the pit lane. Now let's look at this car. Is there any dents on the 935? None that I can see.
I can't see any before it disappeared into the night up the hill. No, I can't see any.
So that's interesting. So that would seem to mean that perhaps, and my apologies to Ben Lutherland, that I think Lutherland's just stepped on the gas. Without a car in front of him to slow him down, he is yarding out third place.
Yeah, possibly. And we said that the tale of two races and what cars can do. The Bentley is actually sort of it's a strange car. You would expect with that, it's got a big V8 grunty engine. You'd expect it to be quite a good speed car, especially at Bathurst. Not so much. It's good down the straight. It's not one of the worst cars, but it really does, hail in comparison to your AMGs, especially around here, your Hondas and other sort of mad straight line speed cars. So I think that, it ended up that Lutherland was actually being held up slightly by the Mercedes of Paulo Lima, and now with no one in front of him, he can go full speed over the mountain that he wants to. And with the Porsche behind, now that the Porsche is out of slipstream range, he still will be gaining a little bit on the straights versus that Porsche. So yeah, it's just Porsche is sort of dropping off now. Still very, very close times, overall, but yeah, it's just got that little bit more of an edge.
I don't mean to play devil's advocate, but I will. I quite frankly like to do it. If LaValle is struggling with pace and is trying to push a little too hard and maybe connects with a wall and has to come into pit lane, that will promote Seb Brunier up to second in class and give him enough points to beat Kumpu in the championship. Now, again, I know we're talking about far-fetched stuff. I'm not trying to oversell it. I'm just merely saying if a Porsche who has ailed in this race, who is ailing now, has a little bit of misfortune in the final 8.5 minutes, that is going to completely change the outcome of this championship, and Kumpu is probably going to be furious.
Yeah, so it's never over until it's over, especially at Bathurst. I mean, this race has been almost action from the word go. How many cars did we have in the first 10 minutes where we had all problems? And yes, we've still got a few laps left to go. Old tyres. And by now, getting a bit of a worn-out driver, maybe.
Yeah, a lot of these night owl drivers, a lot of these drivers in RCI in general are used to racing for an hour. Even in our long endurance races, a lot of them don't double stint. They single stint because that is the limit of the tire most of the time. So they get tires, they change the driver, and most of the ones that I've interviewed said that it just keeps us fresh. You race for an hour, you get an hour or two off, you get back in, and it's like it's a whole nother race. It's fun. Some do like the double stint, but majority they don't. So an hour is sort of what your endurance is. And if you want to equate it to something like a sprinter will never beat a long distance runner. Why? Because they train on sprinting and the other trains on long distance. The long distance runner is never going to beat a sprinter. My point I'm making here, very badly, mind you, but the point I'm making here is a lot of times that fatigue sets in because your brain is used to racing for an hour. And here, it's dark, it's late, you've had to use all of your concentration, and it's been way over an hour at this point. And when that happens, mistakes tend to creep in.
And it's over an hour at Bathurst, which is probably, you can't really take your eyes off the road or have any sort of brief, misthought, because if you do have a mistake, there is nowhere to go at Bathurst. There are a lot of tracks. Well, I say a lot of tracks. There are some tracks where you can sort of click on autopilot, and you're just going around, especially once the field's all spread out. But at Bathurst, as soon as you've got to the mountain section, you have to sort of wake yourself up and think, right, nope, here we go. Walls are bad.
Being told that RCI Racing needs a Reddit for promotion. We have one. We just don't use it. We use Twitter and YouTube and we have all the social medias. It's just not a very particularly popular one for us. As we are getting close. Oh, is that an incident? Was that the 25 off there? It is indeed. It is the 25 off. Kumpu has had an issue here. I thought I saw that the Ferrari's taillights askew as it went down into the S's. We'll see exactly what happened here. He doesn't lose it here over Skyline. He loses it going into, just check this out.
Already a bit of a wibble.
Oh, he does lose it there. Oh, see, that's what I saw. And this is dangerous here. Good avoiding action taken. You don't want to ever have to cheat the course because you'll get a warning for that. But that was excellent use of one right there to avoid calamity.
Yeah, that is why we have the escape road there. Yeah, just caught a little bit of curb on the outside and send it round. Realistically, actually, quite a small incident for what we've had. That was a bit of a spin and recollect. Good avoiding action though from the 40. Came over the crest because that is basically a blind crest. You would have seen maybe the 25 Ferrari spinning down the hill, and you have to basically guess where they are coming over that blind crest.
Well, that's a helpless feeling because the caution flag for a stranded vehicle was not out yet because the car is still moving down the hill, and it is a blind corner. It's a blind right-hander into a blind left-hander, and you could not see the 25 at all. But luckily, he was just far enough around the corner that he could see that the Ferrari in front of him was having issues, and because he didn't see lights going into the subsequent corner, he put two and two together of I'm probably going to have to cut the corner. I'm going to have to straight line the chicane. And again, well done indeed. As LaValle, who earlier was hemorrhaging time, no longer doing so. He's clawed back about a second on Lutherland for the lead in silver, but is it a little too late for the Porsche driver?
Yeah, exactly. He's got to get a move on if he does want to get back up onto the back of that Bentley and the 861. Looking at when our leader, Harry Spears, the 285, crossed the line, I would say that we've got about one more lap after this current one for him. So LaValle's got just a little bit more time, but yeah, you've now got to get a shuffle on if you want that spot.
That Porsche in the background is not the one that is chasing him. That's Heilman. The Porsche that's chasing him is behind Heilman. But there they are together. And I reckon that LaValle has caught him a little bit more. I don't know. Actually, yeah, he did. He caught him by an extra 10th. But it's going to be a little too late. But looks like Ben Lutherland for the X-Kart Esports team is going to have just enough, but saying that, you still have to turn 2 more laps.
And we've seen sometimes it's just how quickly it can go wrong in a Porsche. They are very, very snappy cars, and if they decide that they wish to go on you, then a lot of times, yeah, they will do. They will do just that and sort of send you into the wall.
He's digging, though. He's trying. First thing, he's got to get by Heilman here. Blue flag's being shown, but it's the mountain, and it's very tough to get by.
Yeah, and a lot of times, especially if you are new to GT racing and maybe have come here from the other forms of motorsport, blue flags in GT racing generally is not an immediate dive out of the way. Blue flags is to warn you that a faster car is approaching. So you must hold your line, but you must not defend.
Well, folks, what can you say about SideMax Motorworks 285 AMG and Harry Spears? Well, the stats are this. He's going to go home with 4 wins and 5 podiums, 1 DNF last weekend due to a mechanical failure in his setup. But other than that, it has been a picture-perfect night owl season for Harry Spears. And it has gone his way. And when it hasn't gone his way, he has stuck in there and done the best he can, parking it on the podium for what will be all the rounds but one. And he has owned this championship this season, and he has done the almost unthinkable. It's crazy to think what he could have accomplished going 6 for 6 perhaps if the mechanical issues wouldn't have happened. But this very much the fight for the second place position and first in class. These guys are going to have one more lap, I think. Yes, they are.
Oh.
They're going to have.
Ooh.
I was doing some math, Ryan. What happened?
The 26 of Heilman had a bit of another tap with the wall. As we said earlier, what happens on the mountain in a Porsche? You clip the curb like that and into the wall. But I mean, that is last lap. I think by now Heilman would just limp that car to the end.
As he refers to them, dents. It's perfectly fine.
Yeah, just get some tea-cut.
Indeed. Harry Spears has crossed the line. He has won his fourth race in the series, 4 out of 6, 5th podium on the season, and he is going to win the final race and be crowned the Night Owl Season 3 champion. Congratulations to SideMax's own Harry Spears for winning Season 3 of Night Owl in Pro. An excellently driven race, an excellent season, and very well done indeed. And for Ben Lutherland for X-Kart Esports in the Bentley, it has been a race that has come to him. He has ran a pretty perfect race, you have to say, and he is going to come to the line and win the silver class and finish 2nd overall. LaValle, such a valiant effort, came from somewhere near the bottom of the timesheet, will finish on the podium overall and 2nd in the class. Brian Knappen brings it home 4th and 2nd in the pro category, all alone. And here is Sizek for Fordzilla, bringing it home 3rd in class and 5th overall. And Seb Brunier, I feel bad. He is going to come home just 3 points shy of the podium. 3rd place in the championship. He's going to finish 4th in the championship, but 3rd here in class. Seb Brunier, 3rd on the track, confirmed 4th in the overall standings. Renoir, Lima, Anderson, Heilman, your top 10. Kumpu, Moriarty, Solns, Flamger, Akar, Pride, Ziege, Jorge, and Anna are the rest of the finishing positions. The majority of those did not finish.
Yeah, exactly what you said earlier. What can you say about Harry Spears in the 285 SideMax? Well, he might want to be calling up NASA and give them their rocket power plant back. They've just been absolutely bucking it the whole season.
Oh, we have to mention, too, the silver champion who didn't really have to do a whole lot today, but had to keep the car on the track to secure the win. Paulo Lima is going to win the silver class in the number 18 AMG. It is a double championship win for Mercedes as they win both the pro and the silver class. Renoir confirmed second in silver, and Kumpu third for the final podium positions in the overall standings at the end of the season. And Knappen will finish second in pro, and Sizek in third will round out the pro podium with Harry Spears taking the whole cake. What a race, what a crazy race. We came in, we thought, Ryan, we were going to see some incidences and some crashes, and we thought that it could be an upset kind of day. Well, it wasn't for Harry Spears, but for the silver class, it very much was.
Yeah, exactly. Just some amazing battles. You know, the differences in cars, drivers. Some races that really came to them, like I said, like Ben Lutherland basically just ran his race. Everything came to them at the end. Lavale coming from basically nowhere and appearing on our timesheets right at the end. But yeah, that amazing race to watch. Silver class got a shook up, just shy for some of the drivers, but still a valiant effort. And as it says, Harry Spears basically locked out the pro, even though he basically had to do nothing today, but showing us what he can do in that 285.
Well, folks, it is over for Night Out Season 3. The sign-ups for Night Out Season 4, starting in just a few weeks, already open. And don't worry, no matter what your skill level, we have a split and a category for you. Join us on our Discord and get involved and get on the track. We would love to have you. All the socials being posted in the chat right now and also available in the description. A big shout out and thank you to all of our partners here at RCI, Race Department, AK Informatica, Raceface, Speed Labs, and Sim Racing GP. Everything to do with all of those great people in the description as well. And don't forget, before you go, like and subscribe, hit the bell, join us next weekend for the World Endurance Cup, the fourth round of that championship, the 8 hour of Monza. Go ahead and set a reminder for that. We will be live with you for all 8 hours of that race. And, well, Ryan Mawson, I think we're coming back next season.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We'll see. Hopefully, see some a lot of the familiar faces and some new ones in Tonight Owl. That would be really nice to see. We'll see what battles resume on the track, and can anyone, if he signs back up, can anyone take Spears off the championship winning seat?
Indeed. Well, on behalf of everybody here at RCI TV, I've been Jesse Lee. I've been here with Ryan Mawson, and Nick Setnick was on cameras all season long. Thank you for joining us. It has been absolutely astounding what we've seen here, and what will season 4 have entail. We'll find out in a couple of weeks. Congratulations to Harry Spears, who won pro, and Paulo Lima, who won the silver class this season. We hope to see them back. And we hope to see you back as well next time here on RCI TV. Until then, have a good night, and we'll see you next time.